And I can tell you with certainty that our emergency plans, our systems, our authorities, they are all coordinating with one another, making sure that everything is going on smoothly and safely. Personally, me and my own family, whenever we hear the sirens, we obviously keep on saying the prayers to keep us safe, to keep our valiant soldiers safe. But we also have that certainty that our defense systems are still doing the thing that they're supposed to. We're also certain that if there's any sort of information that we would like to know, we can always check on the correct sources, such as the Ministry of Information, both in the English and Arabic news outlets. Everyone is working tirelessly everyone is working tirelessly around the clock, so we can give you both the audio and video regarding the situation that's going on right now. I just want to make sure that everyone are keeping I'll be honest, we're doing our part. Everyone is doing their part. Even the viewers are doing their part. So we're entering the third week. Hopefully this is the last week. Everyone is hoping that this is the last week of the crisis that we're going on, of the Iranian aggression on our dear homeland and the neighboring Gulf countries. We're hoping this is the last week. But since the beginning of it, as a news correspondent going around the places from one place to another, everything is going as it's supposed to.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sheikha Tamimi, our live correspondent who was out there at the Civil Defense Operation Rooms. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a short break. We'll be back right after that.
الإدارة العامة للدفاع المدني على استعداد تام وجاهزية عالية، ونعمل وفق خطط مدروسة ومحدثة باستمرار لمواجهة أي طارئ، ونتابع مع الجهات الحكومية كل ما يخص احتياجاتها لضمان استمرار نظام سير العمل وعجلة الإنتاج وسير الحياة الطبيعية، ونقول للجميع سلامتكم أولويتنا.
في ظل الأوضاع الراهنة، معكم اليوم وزارة التجارة والصناعة المعنية في ملف الأمن الغذائي. اليوم نطمنكم بأن الوضع التمويني مستقر تماماً، ولا يوجد أي نقص في المواد الغذائية الأساسية. كذلك حركة الأسواق طبيعية، والسلع متوفرة في نقاط البيع والمخازن بشكل منتظم. إنتاج المياه في المصانع المحلية مستمر على مدار الساعة لضمان تلبية احتياجات الجميع. سلاسل الإمداد تعمل بشكل طبيعي وسلس، ولا توجد أي عوائق في تدفق السلع إلى الأسواق. كما أن الأسواق المركزية وجميع نقاط البيع تعمل بشكل طبيعي، والجمعيات التعاونية تواصل نشاطها المعتاد دون أي تأثير. ونؤكد على الجاهزية الكاملة لخطط الطوارئ، مع استمرار فرق الرقابة التجارية في متابعة الأسواق ميدانياً بشكل يومي لضمان استقرار الأسعار وتوفر السلع الأساسية فيها. لذلك اليوم احنا نطمنكم ونبشركم بأن الأمور طيبة إن شاء الله ويحافظ الله.
Ladies and gentlemen, now we'll be joined via phone call our Kuwait television correspondent from London, Mr. Jamal Shaheen. Hello, Mr. Shaheen. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Hello, thank you for hosting me in your program.
Now, Mr. Shaheen, how does London interpret the recent British and Gulf statements? Does this reflect a genuine political coordination with the Gulf states, or is it merely a diplomatic stance aimed at easing the tensions in the region?
The statement is very clear and reflects the strong and deep-rooted relationship between the United Kingdom and the Gulf states. It is presented clearly, without any doubt. It is not just a temporary position amid of the easing tension. Today, for example, the Prime Minister Keir Starmer emphasized and confirmed his position, and he said, our armed force are working 24 hours in 7 days to protect the British life and our British interests and support our Gulf arsenal. He confirmed the Gulf state is very important for the United Kingdom, and like there are 3 squadrons of fighter jets working alongside the drone and the counter of Iranian attack with coordination with the Gulf state. Not only that, he said any solution after the war should be coordinated with the Gulf state, and every time he is in a good contact with the Gulf state, and also emphasize that the foreign minister, Yvette Cooper, have a meeting with GCC foreign minister last Thursday in Riyadh.
And Mr. Shaheen, to what extent does the language of the statement reaffirm the British resolve to de-escalate the situation in the Gulf and its direct impact on maritime security in the region?
The British position from the beginning is very clear, and it is opposite to enter the war alongside with the United States. Like the Prime Minister said, we are concerned of doing. There is no plan. There is no plan for them. So he should organize everything with the Gulf state, and also he confirmed this is the most important thing we should have. All this, everything should be organized with the Gulf state, even with the free navigation of the Strait of Hormuz. He confirmed any plan should be coordination with the Gulf state. This will give you how much the security and the energy, which represent 20% of global energy supplied but through the Strait of Hormuz, and they came from the Gulf state. It's very important for not only for the UK, for the world and for the economic. You can see what's happened in the stock market last couple of days. So the security in the Gulf state is the security of the state in the United Kingdom. This is why today the Prime Minister announced a new package of money to support the needed family, because this has have a bad effect and the negative effect on UK because of the war and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz.
Now, sir, can the statement be understood as a British attempt to reassure its Gulf partners that London is not seeking to escalate this war any further?
This situation is very complicated because UK does not have offensive target, but you have a play and the major goal in defense. So we can't say she's not in the war, but she's not in attack. She tried to, because the Prime Minister said today, we will not go ahead or involve it in a war without a clear plan. What would be happening? He thinks that the United States and the Israel don't have a clear plan or a clear vision what will happen next. He said we have to organize with the Gulf state about all of this. Organize even in the future if we looking for a diplomatic solution. This should be agreed with the Gulf state and how to prevent Iran to acquire nuclear weapons. Not only that, and to stop the aggression from Iran by missile or ballistic rockets which attack the Gulf state. This should be in the future. We need to have a plan. This is why the United States is not going with, this is why the United Kingdom is not going with the United States, because they understand the Gulf state was against the war from the beginning.
Now, sir, given the UK's position and the pressure being exerted by the US President Donald Trump for a direct military intervention, how can the UK Prime Minister Starmer balance this cautious approach?
Your question was asked today in the press conference for the Prime Minister himself. He said, I am the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. The British interest is the most important for me. I will not head to a war without a full picture about what will happen. This is very risky. And he also confirmed he had a conversation last night with President Trump. It was very friendly. It was a good. Beyond that, the coordination between the United Kingdom and the United States in the diplomatic and security and military is the highest level in the planet at the moment. So they are coordinating many things. But to go on a war without consultation with a partner in Gulf state, this is why Keir Starmer refused to join the war, because he understands it will escalate the situation more. It is not for the sake of stability and security and peace in the Middle East. This is why we are seeking to de-escalate the situation. the most important thing and the best solution, according to the Prime Minister and Yuko Minister, is to de-escalate the situation and find a diplomatic solution.
Now, we have heard the UK Prime Minister Starmer speak about a collective plan. What is the nature of this collective plan? Will the British participation in this be purely defensive, or will it evolve and expand into a broader military action?
Okay, this is this is the most discussion here in the United Kingdom now, because United Kingdom have like some smart option. There is nobody explain what is the plan. They are talking about some drones and self ships to discover the mines from the Strait of Hormuz, but there is no any plan like many European countries to send ships or more access to the region. You would be surprised now. There is no any ship ready to fight for the British government in the Gulf states. The last one was left for maintenance in September. It left the Bahrain and now here in the United Kingdom for maintenance. It's for routine maintenance. But they don't like to be in a war. It will not help to escalate the situation. But at the same time, the head of the British Army a week ago said all option is open. We review all the decision according to the situation in the ground.
Now, Mr. Shaheen, we're very quickly running out of time, so I'd just like to ask you very quickly, given this context, can it be said that London is trying to balance supporting its Gulf allies while protecting its own domestic economic interests without being drawn into a total war in the region?
I will answer very quick. Like the minister here said, the British interest is nearly the Gulf state interest. We know that nearly 500,000 of British citizenship in Gulf states. So if there is a fact that it will affect them here. So they understand the situation. They know it is not balanced. It's their own interest to de-escalate the situation, even if the relationship with the United States is a little bit affected.
Thank you very much. That was Mr. Jamal Shaheen, our live correspondent from London. Ladies and gentlemen, as the tensions continue to escalate across the Middle East, the role of the United States remains central to the unfolding developments. Washington has been closely involved in the military and diplomatic dimensions of the crisis, while also coordinating with its partners in the region and beyond. More on that in this report.
The United States has emerged as a key actor in the current regional escalation, with Washington closely monitoring developments and taking steps aimed at protecting its interests and those of its partners in the Middle East. American officials have confirmed that the United States has reinforced its military presence in the region, deploying additional defensive capabilities and maintaining a heightened level of readiness at several bases across the Gulf. According to U.S. officials, these measures are intended to strengthen regional security, deter further attacks, and safeguard American forces and allied countries amid the growing tensions. Washington has also intensified diplomatic consultations with regional partners and international allies as efforts continue to prevent the situation from escalating into a broader conflict that could destabilize the Middle East. At the same time, the current developments have placed renewed focus on the strategic relationship between the United States and Gulf countries, particularly in areas related to security cooperation, air defense coordination, and the protection of critical infrastructure. The United States has repeatedly emphasized the importance of protecting international energy routes and ensuring the stability of global markets, especially given the strategic significance of the Gulf region for global energy supplies. Meanwhile, analysts note that Washington is attempting to balance military preparedness with diplomatic engagement, as the international community calls for restraint and renewed efforts to contain the crisis.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we continue to cover the ongoing developing events taking place here in the country and the region, we're now going to be joined by our KTV correspondent, Ms. Dalia Al-Koumi from Washington, D.C. Hello, Ms. Dalia. How are you doing? And can you hear us?
Yes, I absolutely can. Good evening to you and to your esteemed viewers.
Now, ma'am, with the rising fuel prices and the growing opposition to the war within the United States, is the war turning into a political crisis for the Republican Party?
Well, I think it is. President Trump has failed up till now to explain what are the main goals of the war, even though he keeps repeating it's to stop Iran and stop Tehran from acquiring nuclear weapons and being a threat to neighboring countries. But so far, the war has dragged. We're on the third week right now. The internal pressure on President Trump is escalating. People are asking, when exactly is this war going to end? How is it going to end? Has it reached any of its goals? Has it been able to change the regime? Has it been having great impact on the regime, the current regime now in Tehran, and the intensity of Iran attacking neighboring countries and continuing to be a threat, not only to neighboring countries, but to the world. So I'm sure there is a lot of internal pressure on Trump right now, and it's very obvious also from his approval ratings, which is going down.
Now, as we mentioned earlier in our coverage, speaking with our correspondent in London, there is a reluctance from the international community to join Trump in this war. And as you mentioned, there's a consistently shifting goalpost. Does this the reluctance of the international community, along with this shifting goalpost, signal a strategic error in their decision making?
Well, I think the neighboring countries in the Middle East, the surrounding countries, the Gulf countries, and also countries all over the world. And we have seen President Trump call on NATO to budge in and try to help the United States in the escalation of the war and in providing security for the Strait of Hormuz. But right now, none of these countries has actually showed any signs of interest of joining this war. We have seen how the Minister of Defense of Germany yesterday announced that this is not our war and we're not going to be dragged into it. So a lot of internal voices and specifically critiques of the current war of the US on Iran are blaming the United States of being dragged into this war, and they're voicing their concern that no one wants to help because a lot of countries see this war as unnecessary, and as long as Iran was contained and trying to go to the negotiating table, then we should have postponed this war. The United States should have postponed this war. But internally, there is a lot of turmoil and a lot of questions rising up to the level asking President Trump, when is this going to end? Have you even achieved? Because we have seen Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, come out a couple of times and announce that the war has even exceeded its expectations and that they have achieved a lot. They have completely obliterated the Navy and the military capability of Iran, but we do not see this happening on the ground. We still see Tehran threatening neighboring cities, firing missiles at them, causing a lot of disrupt in the Middle East, firing at the Israeli regime, and nothing has been achieved yet, or nothing on basis of what this administration has been announcing has been achieved yet. So, of course, there's a lot of turmoil inside the political societies inside the US, not only from the party which President Trump belongs to, the Republican Party, which of course is backing up the president and saying eventually this war will see its fruits and you will all benefit from it, and you will see how we have managed to stop any threats to our homeland security. But right now, the people do not see that, and there's a lot of opposition growing and boiling inside the politics in the United States.
Ms. Dalia, in terms of that opposition and the growing internal pressures and turmoil, some MAGA leaders say that they have been deceived. How can Trump regain their trust in the upcoming midterms election?
Let's say that the Make America Great Again main characters, like we've seen Marjorie Greene and some others, have accused President Trump during his election period and his vows to concentrate on the internal benefits and the internal interests of the United States. These are the voices that are right now voicing their concerns, is that the United States should not be involved in more wars. President Trump has promised during his campaign to become a president and to be nominated during his nomination period, that he will concentrate completely on the interests of the United States inside, elevating the daily pressure on the middle class, providing relief from economic stress that the Americans have been feeling lately in most of the sections, in the housing section, grocery section, in most of the daily living life. The the middle American consumer has been suffering from a lot of pressure. But now the war is costing a lot. Wars cost a lot of money, and the budget has increased because the prolonged war in the Middle East, we're entering the third week. So absolutely, the mega supporters of President Trump started to put down a foot and ask, what is going on? And we need the president to come out and explain until when is this going to drag, and what is the end goal, and has any of the goals pronounced or declared at the beginning of this war have been achieved?
And now, could Trump possibly be risking becoming a politically weak president if he has not already become a sort of lame duck in the political zeitgeist?
Let's say the phrase of a lame duck is usually reserved for presidents at the end of their presidency term. We cannot say that he's becoming a lame duck because he's not yet ending. He's only spent 1 year in office. But we can say that he might be weakened through this war because of his pursuing interests outside. Although the administration keeps explaining that the main goal of the war is to protect homeland security and the Americans from the threats of the Iran regime. But still, the middle class, as I previously mentioned, the people, the normal working middle class Americans are not feeling except the pressure, which might lead to him being, in context, not in real terms, a lame duck, that the rest of his term, the next 3 years, the period left from his term, might be very difficult for him to be a strong president or to gain approval again, or to gain the trust of the American people, whom he promised that he will concentrate on their interests and leave the outside world on its own.
Now, as you mentioned earlier, this is a very expensive war. Does the president still have the right to continue military operations without any congressional approval?
The President of the United States, as Commander-in-Chief, has the right to launch the war without going back to Congress in the first 48 hours. After 60 days, according to the War Act, the Power War Act of Power War Resolution of 1973 gives him 60 additional days, after which he has to go back to Congress, especially for budgeting, because the war will cost him a lot, and it's already draining the United States of a lot of money. So he will have to go back to Congress. He actually went to this war without the permission of Congress, and we have seen how Congress, with both sectors, both branches of Congress, tried, the House of Representatives and the Senate tried to stop this war and tried to say that it was not constitutional, and they were voted against. And he had the power now to be in this war, but I think after 60 days, according to this resolution, he will have to go back to Congress for funding, for budgeting, and have to explain exactly what has been achieved in case the war drags that long. But we'll have to wait and see.
And Ms. Dalia, will pressure from the American public opinion and the rising fuel costs, will this push America to settle this politically?
It might. And we have seen that the United States, especially President Trump, although he denies it, and although also the Iranians deny that they have asked for going back to the negotiating table, but we have seen the president some of the times that he does not show that the United States is winning or it's gaining in this war without any gains to Iran. We have seen other parties try, other countries trying to open diplomatic channels, especially Turkey. We have seen how behind the scenes, some of those countries are working to establish, again, connection with Iran and try to bring it back to the negotiating table and to sit down with the US as a means to end this war. We have not seen any fruitful outcome from these efforts yet. But although President Trump always says that, no, we are winning this war, we are not, they want to settle, but we're not interested to settle, you find very contradictory explanations from both sides at this time. You find President Trump saying that they're trying to go back to the negotiating table and try to settle and try to bridge the gap and stop this war. On the other hand, you see the Iranian officials saying, no, we're not reaching out to the US. We are capable of finishing this war and we are going to prolong it as much as we can, and still launching strikes against neighboring countries and threatening the neighboring countries. So you do not know exactly what's going on behind the scenes, but political analysts have been saying that there is, in fact, some negotiations, some political pressure to reopen negotiating channels behind the scenes and bringing back Tehran to the negotiating table as a means of ending this war. We have to wait and see, because President Trump has shown no signs of backing up, especially on his call to other countries to try to join in and help the United States to secure the Strait of Hormuz. And he shows no, and his administration as well, they show no backing from this war.
Unfortunately, Ms. Dalia, this will be our final question, and this seems to be the question of the hour. Could the war erode the U.S. alliances in the Middle East in the long run?
We cannot say that this is not 100% sure or guaranteed outcome of this war, but definitely it could strain them, because as we have seen, the Gulf states, the neighboring states of Tehran that have nothing to do with this war and have reluctantly not reluctantly, but have been adamant on not joining this war and explaining that they have no interest to join this war from the start. They have been targeted badly by Tehran, and a lot of U.S. foundations have been targeted on their soils, and it has caused them traumatic damage, not only with loss of lives and also infrastructure that has been damaged. And this is ongoing. This threat is ongoing. We have seen how from the Gulf, like places like Dubai and all those countries evacuating their foreign presence, and it has affected them dearly. And it will affect them not only life losses, but it will affect them also on their work level and their infrastructure and their economy. It will hit their economy hard. The US might not lose because they're big allies in the Middle East, but it will definitely strain the relationship with the United States, especially on the basis that those countries do not want to be dragged in this war, and they have been affected badly by it.
Thank you very much, Ms. Dalia Al-Koumi, for joining us during this difficult situation. Ladies and gentlemen, that was our correspondent from Washington, D.C., Ms. Dalia Al-Koumi. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to remind you all that in times of crises and regional tensions, maintaining stability is not limited to official institutions alone, but it also extends to the awareness of the entire community. Citizens and residents alike form an essential part of the security and stability system through their adherence to official directives and their responsible handling of information. With the rapid spread of social media, rumors become one of the most serious challenges facing societies in such circumstances, as inaccurate information can contribute to anxiety or exaggerate events beyond their true scope. This underscores the importance of obtaining news from official and reliable sources and refraining from sharing any unverified information. Community awareness, adherence to instructions, and responsible handling of information are fundamental factors that strengthen trust, maintain stability, and support the state's efforts in crisis management. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of our exclusive coverage for tonight, but stay tuned for more news and updates at the same time tomorrow. We'd like to extend our gratitude to our guests in the studio and to all the crew, both in the ministry here and all the other ministries around the state of Kuwait, who are conserving and protecting our safety. Thank you all for joining us tonight, and stay tuned for the hour's latest news bulletin.